All right, you've got 7:04 and you're live.
Thank you, Carrie. This is the May 4th, 2021 meeting of the City of Oneonta Common Council. It is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Hersey,
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Davies,
Here.
Councilmember Risberger.
Here.
Councilmember LaParishu,
Here.
Councilmember Carson.
Here.
Councilmember Harrington,
Here.
Councilmember Rafter,
Here.
Councilmember Drenick.
Here.
Okay, we've got a full house. Everybody is here. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to start off with a public hearing, the purpose of which is to hear comments regarding a proposed expenditure of up to $30,000 from the repair reserve to fund the roof and railing repairs at the Brenner Recreation Building, which is located in Neowa Park. Do we have anyone here to speak specifically on this subject?
I have no one in the waiting room and we've received no correspondence.
Okay, so I will close the public hearing. And Carrie, we have no petitioners either, that means, is that correct?
You are correct.
Okay. Then we'll move on to board and commission reports, starting with the Planning Commission. Councilmember Risberger.
Yes, thank you. Planning Commission met on April 21st, and we only had 2 items on the agenda. One was more of a discussion on the MU1 zoning revision. We had the signage section that was passed out, and this was suggesting that we move towards signage that restricts size and location, but not the content. It expands the sign types in this code. And there was discussion on reducing the signage and digital clutter that we have. This led to a long discussion about digital and LED signage and whether they fit in with the historic districts. So some people on the committee felt that digital and LED signage is fine. Some did not. But what was agreed on is that with a historic, if there's a historic review board and possibly even expanding our historic districts, that may prevent or limit their usage in certain parts of downtown. And that the upcoming study is going to impact the decision. So, and then also there was some discussion on the number of stories allowed on buildings. Right now, there's no restriction on the number of stories. So we changed the max stories to allowed in the T5 and T6 zones. We changed it from what was written in the new code to 6 stories in the T5 section and 5 stories in the T6 section. T6 is on Main Street. And this was thought to preserve the historic nature of Main Street, but allow for possible larger buildings or apartments elsewhere. And this was passed by the Planning Commission by a vote of 4-0 and passed on for further discussion to the Legislative Committee of the Council. The other item was 5658 West Broadway, and this was brought forward by Phil Hill, one of our residents here. He wants to subdivide the property, and there's 2 buildings on the property right now that are non-conforming. The 2 buildings are very, very close to one another. And he is saying that subdividing the property will better allow him to pay and to repair the structure and character, maintain the character of the properties. So there was some discussion of whether or not to send him to zoning first to obtain a variance to make the properties conforming. So the setback problem will not be any kind of an anchor on any future building or major work done, because simply splitting a property that's non-conforming just gives you 2 properties that are non-conforming. So Phil said he has no plan to do any major work in the future, and that would require a variance. So the Planning Commission approved that subdivision 4-0. And that was it.
Questions, anyone? Yes, Councilmember Carson.
Gary. So Dave, you said on Main Street, it's T5 and they're allowed to go 6 floors. Did I get that right?
No, it's the opposite. It's opposite what you think. Main Street is T6 and you can go up to 5 stories on Main Street is what's going to be proposed.
Okay. What was the reasoning behind that when I'm only on a like 189 Main?
It's
and
really
others?
based on the height of the floors, and they really didn't want to go higher than what's allowed there now. But off of Main Street, you could potentially go a little bit higher if it's down on Market or a couple other areas. But ultimately, and I could be getting misunderstanding this, but ultimately the overall height would not be that much different with a brand new building
Oh,
versus
because
the
of the
historic building.
because of the height of the floors. I got you now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's 11 feet nowadays, right?
I'm not the one to ask. I'm not exactly sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let me just say that Stephen Yearley has done a masterful job on creating a new MU1 code, where that's MU1 is our downtown, including Market Street. It is completely different from anything we've seen before. It's what's called a form-based code. It is designed to make sure that the undeveloped parts of our downtown extend the current urban fabric of our downtown, and to make sure that the existing parts of our downtown continue to portray the current urban fabric and not only as good as they do now, but even better. So it's 122 pages long, and it's coming your way soon. And of course, the council will have the job of having the final say on it. So it'll start with the legislative committee. I think you'll be impressed, but it's a lot. So prepare yourself to review it. But Stephen has worked on this for well over a year.
I think he started this, Gary, during the last council, didn't he? Yeah, John's shaking his head. I think I think this has been going on at least 2 years.
So he did a good job.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's amazing work.
I'm still trying to understand exactly what a form-based code means, but it's great. Okay, let's go to the Commission on Community Relations and Human Rights, which is Councilmember Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. The commission met last Thursday, which was, or I'm sorry, the 22nd, April 22nd, and discussed a few issues. One of our members, Deandra Sangetti Daniel, is working on the inclusivity statement for the city. She's working very hard to make sure that it gets done right. Some optimism for the summer as things potentially get better on the COVID front. There was talk about having a 4th of July event. The specifics will depend on how things are looking with the pandemic, as well as planning for the Trailblazer Award. There's still discussion about the format in which that will be. And the Juneteenth celebration is still being planned for the summer, and hopefully will be held in Neowa Park.
Questions, anyone? Thank you, Luke. And our last board and commission reports is Parks and Recreation. Councilmember Lepari Shu.
You got it. So let me just open to my notes here. That was quicker, I feel like, than usual to get to me. So we met yesterday, which, aside from my love of parks, my favorite thing about being the liaison to Parks and Rec is that it's always the day before I give my report. Our Parks Administrator, Lansing, gave her report to the commission. So a couple things there. There is a bike race being held, the NICA bike race on May 15th and 16th, which is up around the high school area. So she's very excited that that can go on in spite of the pandemic. We got an update, of course, on the dog park. Grass is being seeded hopefully next week with the help of some folks from Suco, which is very cool. We got an update on the court restoration. I had mentioned during my last report about, or actually maybe it was even the one before that, about some of the lifting and peeling on the tennis and pickleball courts that had been resurfaced. The timeline is split up, but the plan would be that it's completed by the 4th of July, that restoration. The concert series, the summer concert series is happening. Information for that is on the Parks and Rec website. And evidently Gary Lang has offered Demaski Field for that. So I'm really excited because, I mean, personally, I think that's such a great venue for that kind of thing. And so to be able to utilize that and really have it live up to its potential is fantastic. Let's see. Oh, 200. I thought I wrote zoo participant. 200 participant cap outdoors is moving to 500. Lou reported at some point. I haven't verified that, but that'll certainly make it easier to approve events in the park, such as the Juneteenth celebration that Luke had mentioned. We talked about that a little bit, and just that's going to be a very popular event. And so the hesitation is that it will draw more than the acceptable amount of people. And so if it expands to 500, that will be great. And then we also got word that the official pool opening, Wilbur Park Pool, is going to be July 1st. And again, that's kind of late, but it's because schools go until June 26th this year. The commission approved a couple of petitions, pickleball tournament over the summer. They do support the Juneteenth celebration with, again, just the consideration that the amount of people is appropriate. And then there's also an event for Oneonta Middle School to get kids outside, and that all those passed unanimously. The commission discussed fishing in city parks. Currently, there is no fishing allowed in city parks. Actually, Luke had brought to me something from one of his constituents with regard to a receptacle that person would like to have installed in a city park, or I think it's in Neowell Park. We're getting details on that. That would be for used fishing line so that birds don't get tangled in it and die. And so we talked about how positive that is and how wonderful that is. And that brought up the discussion of the fact that people really shouldn't be fishing in the first place. And would the commission be amenable to learning more about that and potentially expanding that policy? So that's something that's going to be coming up in future meetings. We also discussed we are going to compare to the Parks Master Plan and list of projects to see if a court that could be used for bocce, shuffleboard, and cornhole could potentially be installed in a city park somewhere. Those are all really great sports that require very little athletic prowess, and they're a lot of fun and they inspire tournaments. So we all sort of thought that was great. We also discussed community garden sites. That is something that's being looked at. We didn't really talk about it in depth, but there were a couple things that came out of that discussion that are worth sharing. One is that there is, we think there is another community garden site that is potentially privately owned by Fox Hospital on 5th Street. Mark Davies is shaking his head yes. Luke Murphy is shaking his head yes. If you guys know more about that and want to give some details, that would be great.
I don't. I actually had questions from a constituent myself, so
Gotcha.
I'll do some digging as well.
Okay.
And I've only heard rumors of it.
Okay. So that's about where we sort of all are. So if it exists, that's lovely. And I guess we'll know more. And then one of the commissioners suggested potentially the former Coddington's location on Rose Avenue as a community greenhouse, which is a lofty goal, but sounded very cool. And so anyway, that discussion continues. We discussed basketball again. The song remains the same. And we also discussed metal detection in the parks and potential liabilities for that. So I think as a group, the consensus was to learn more about metal detection as a hobby before coming to any policy conclusion. But there is some concern over buried power lines specifically in the parks, and could they be unearthed, and could that be a liability issue and things like that. But I think the entire commission sort of professed just a general lack of thorough understanding of the hobby in general. And so I think the idea is to learn more about that and try to figure out if that's where we want to go with that. And I think that's it.
Wow, all of that good stuff at one meeting?
Honestly, it's a pretty good appointment, Parks and Rec
Wow.
liaison. It's always fun.
That's just quite amazing. A lot of good stuff there, all coming out of one meeting. Well done. And thanks to Luke for volunteering to dig into the garden issues. Councilmember Drennick has a question.
Hey, so the question is about the fishing. Mine receptacle, boy, do I love that idea. But I don't understand is there a concern about people fishing generally in the park, or is it just about Hodges Pond parks?
Well, so there is no fishing allowed at all in Hodges or in any city parks, except for there are some free kids fishing derby days in Hodges Pond. What we discussed was the potential of the city allowing fishing in the mill race, right. Because it's stocked with fish, and the fish from Hodges Pond are actually going to be relocated to the mill race. And so it could help with the potential population issue that may arise from that. It could tick a lot of boxes. The concerns really were for safety, I think, first and foremost, or maybe just because it hasn't been done before. Liability kind of things. I know that was one thing that that was brought up. But yeah, so it's fishing in the mill race. We're not considering fishing in Hodges Pond, and student won't have any fish in it. So there's that. Yeah.
So again, I'm sorry, but so in some of the other parks, in Wilbur Park, we've got, I don't know, there were ever any fish in it, but you know,
the creek.
The creek, you know.
Yep.
And you'd think I would know what New Island's, how New Island fits into the city's park system, but obviously a lot of people will fish New Island, and of course we're also going to be looking at the waterfront soon, I would presume.
Yes.
So anyway, I just wasn't sure if it was a case of, you know, you should never take a fish and it should be catch and release, or if it was something, you know, more than that. So I think, as I understand it, you're looking at basically the mill race right now as potentially a place where people might be able to fish. I know they do fish there now. They try to anyway.
Yeah. And Lou, you know, is intimately familiar with what people do where in the parks, which is really a great resource. And so she had mentioned the mill race as being sort of the spot. We also talked about people who practice fly fishing or do fish up in the creek in Wilbur Park. I agree. I've lived here my whole life, and I don't think I've ever seen a fish in that creek. But, you know, nice way to spend an afternoon, I guess. The New Island, I believe, butts up against the Susquehanna River, so I don't think we have any jurisdiction over that. And I think that was a sort of a big aha to us, was that a lot of the places where you can fish are state owned. So yeah, I think we're really looking at the mill race.
All right. Thanks.
Sure. And I'm only speaking from the depth of my understanding, which is pretty shallow. So.
Any other questions? Great report, Katie.
Thanks.
Okay, let's go to committee reports. Planning Committee, back to Councilmember Risberger.
Thank you. The Planning Committee met on April 26th, and there were a number of items that came up. Councilmember Drenick gave us an update on the planned downtown events. This is through the Town Gown Committee, and there's an upcoming street closure on May 15th that runs from 5 to 10 p.m. This is on tonight's agenda, so there will be a discussion later, possibly. This will permit on-street dining and shopping to benefit local business owners. And Mark, did you want to give any additional info right now?
No, I think I'll hold off.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. There was a street painting request that came from Brian Berger and Kaylor Carpenter, even though Kaylor was unable to attend the meeting, from Fordo, doing a positive street messaging on the portion of Water Street that is not currently driven on. So Water Street right now is closed off. So they're talking about on the other side of the barrier, not on the ramp itself, but on the other side of the barrier on Water Street. And this is a short-term paint. It lasts about 30 days. And this would be done by Club Odyssey, and they would be doing the messaging with oversight done by both Kaylor and Brian. So we moved this forward to council, Gary, and I think there was some miscommunication about getting this motion out to the council. Was this motion sent to the council and I missed it today?
It's been added to the agenda at your request. That's number 15 on the revised agenda that was sent out.
Okay, I didn't see that, but okay. Then there was a discussion about parking on Deet Street, and this has to do with the building with the Deet Street lofts. And so there's a 3-question survey asking about parking restrictions, and that was going to be hand delivered by Mark to business owners and their employees. And lastly, we had a short update from Councilmember Davies about the new proposed Upper East Street trails and the pump track. There was a mountain biking meeting about 3 weeks ago now, and they decided that rather than just going out and building a pump track, they wanted to apply for grant money to pay for this. And Mark looked into Port Jervis apparently has a great pump track, and the committee's starting to plan and research. They want to do this the right way and take their time doing it. So we have a top quality pump track, and the same goes for the Upper East Street trails. They're going to be looking into possible grant money into potentially putting in a professional level trail. Mark, do you have anything to add? What'd I miss?
No, I think you nailed it, Dave. We've since have met and are just continuing to research and putting together a proposal right now.
Of course, now I have to go down to Port Jervis. So, and that's all there was. Katie?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Could you tell us a little bit more about the survey that's going out to business owners? Like just what the name of
I
that?
don't have the 3 questions. Mark Drenick, can you quickly go over that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, certainly. So it's a sheet with 5 options for people to fill in, 5 places for businesses to fill in. And what I'm doing is it's very extremely simple. It's about the parking restrictions that as the lot has shrunken, the folks are looking at parking a little bit differently than they were. So the questions are keep the current restrictions, 2 to 4, and with ostensibly, I mean, the thing starts with the assertion that while the current 2 and 4 hour parking restrictions have been designed to allow customers and clients a more convenient access to the businesses that surround the Deet Street parking lot, the removal of parking spaces during construction of the lofts on Deet's project may warrant re-examination of the current regulations. Therefore, we would like to provide our opinions so that they may inform any action that the city might consider. So it's keep the current restrictions, remove all the restrictions, or I have a category of other which is our most popular category. When all of that has been collected, I'm, COVID being COVID, we're getting better, but we're still not there. So I drop a sheet off. The next day they text me and tell me they're done with it, and I move it over to the next person. And it's been keeping me busy on and around the Dietz lot.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, thank you, Dave. Let's go to Finance Human Resource Committee, Councilmember Carson.
Thank you, Mayor. We also met April 26th. We were meeting at, I believe, 6 p.m. Actually, so before you tonight are motions 4 through 13 that were vetted by the committee. I'd like to just highlight motion 4 and thank our personnel director and our acting fire chief for their senior leadership in getting this agreement taken care of between the professional firefighters local 2408 and the city of Oneonta. So thank you two for a job well done. I appreciate that, and so doesn't the rest of the committee. And I think we want to pull motion 13. We brought this up to full council just so that Mark, who was assigned, I believe last year sometime, to the Town of Gowan, I believe Dave just talked about it. The Town of Gowan committee has some events, and I'd just like to give Mark an opportunity to talk about the financial commitment with regards to the Town of Gowan. So other than that, I'll try and answer anybody's questions.
Okay, if there are no questions, thank you, Len. Okay, next on the agenda is Mayor's report. That's me. I want to talk about two good things that have been happening lately. One is our Downtown Improvement Fund, which was $2.2 million of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative money, was set aside for local businesses and property owners, downtown local businesses and property owners to apply for, to either create new signage, create new building facades, or to convert vacant upper floors into quality market rate housing. It's been a long process. It's taken a couple of years. We did something that was never done before. There were complications. Then we got hit by COVID. But I'm pleased to say that at this time, all $2.2 million is accounted for and allocated. We have signed contracts and projects underway by 37 businesses that are either creating new signage or new facades, and 4 property owners that are going to convert vacant upper floors into quality market rate housing. Of the signage and facade projects, approximately 15 of them have been completed. And the remaining 22 projects all have signed contracts and are either already underway, in progress, or about to get started. So this is a major accomplishment. A lot of work went into this over 2 years to get this done. Big thank you to both Judy Pangman and to Delaware Engineering, who we contracted with to administer this job, for bringing it to a very, very successful outcome. So we are already starting to see some of the results of that. It's an updated, better looking downtown. And more importantly, the fact that we've had 41 business or property owners be willing to invest in their properties shows their confidence in the city of Oneonta, despite COVID, is really a good sign and something to be acknowledged and appreciated. So good news there. Success on a very challenging and unique project. Other good news is next week is finals week at SUNY Oneonta. It's the end of the spring semester. We all know that the spring semester has been one that is unique and challenging, but has also been very, very successful. SUNY Oneonta has conducted over 44,000 COVID tests on campus this year. In the last 14 days, they had 4 positive tests, which is a positivity rate of 0.11%. And I think this success can really be attributed to an outstanding sense of partnership that we have seen in the spring semester. I want to commend University Police Department and the Oneonta Police Department. They have worked in an outstanding partnership, doing what they call party patrols every Friday and Saturday night. Spoke to Jen Filer today, chief of UPD, was telling me that they've appointed officer liaisons, and they're very proud of the difference that they've been able to make by working in partnership with the Oneonta Police Department and the excellent communication that they've had in both directions. Both I and Dr. Jorgensen had been invited and went ahead and created videos to be sent out, links of which were sent out to the entire college community, staff, faculty, and students. Dr. Jorgensen and I attend meetings of Dennis Craig, President Craig, and the COVID response team every other week, where they provide us with updates and challenges or problems that they're experiencing. I commend Mark Drenick for his efforts to bring the businesses, rally the businesses to find ways to rebuild trust between the students and the downtown businesses, you know, after the unsuccessful fall semester that we had. And Dr. Franklin Chambers, in his new role as Vice President of External Affairs, has done an excellent job in monitoring and overseeing off-campus activities, making sure off-campus students are getting tested, and has been accessible to our council members, as well as accessible to any community members who have any concerns about student activities. And he's done an excellent job there. So big thank you, and just want to acknowledge the excellent job done by SUNY Oneonta in having a successful, despite challenging, spring semester. And on a somewhat related but different subject, the vaccination center up on the campus, which is not run by SUNY Oneonta, but it wouldn't be there if they had not advocated for it and agreed to have it. They just passed a milestone, I believe, of 25,000 vaccinations have been administered there. And you may have experienced the same thing, but every person I talk to who has gone there to be vaccinated says that the staff there are wonderful. They're warm, welcoming, make people feel at ease. And, you know, that means a lot when we're trying to encourage people to get vaccinated. Some people are on the fence if they hear from their friends and neighbors that they've had such a good experience there. It helps. So I just think a big thank you is deserved to everybody who's been involved. Our National Guard, Bassett Hospital, the SUNY Oneonta folks in doing such an outstanding job in operating that much needed vaccination center. 25,000 shots, that makes a difference. And they will continue to operate, as far as I know, through the summer. That's all that I have. So if there are no questions for me, I will go on to the consent agenda. Motion 1 is that the council approves the minutes of the regular meeting, which was held on April 6th, 2021. 2, motion that the council approves the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on April 20th, 2021. 3, Motion that the council approves the warrants totaling $201,540.08. And that the same be placed on the Director of Finance's desk for payment as presented. 4, motion that the council authorizes the mayor to execute a memorandum of agreement between the city and the Oneonta Professional Firefighters Local 2408. This is to settle grievances that pertain to alleged violations of the collective bargaining agreement, Article 10, Section 1, which were grieved on March 11th, 2020 and April 2nd, 2020, and an alleged violation of the collective bargaining agreement, Article 10, Section 2, which occurred on March 9th, 2020. 5, motion that the council authorizes the use of the Streets and Sidewalk Capital Reserve in an amount up to $125,000 towards the funding of the 2021 pavement maintenance costs for various city streets as adopted in the 2021 budget. 6, motion that the council authorizes the mayor to sign 2 3-year contracts with Casella Waste Management of New York, Incorporated, for equipment, collection, transportation, disposal, and recycling services as specified and at fees indicated in the contracts as presented for locations at the Albert S. Nader Regional Airport and in Arneoa Park. This is, of course, subject to review by the city attorney. 7, motion that the council declares the items per the attached list as surplus and authorizes the purchasing agent to dispose of same with items determined to have value being listed for sale on the auction website, publicsurplus.com. 8, motion that the council approves the purchasing agent's recommendation to award the bid for the 2021 tree removal and maintenance bid to Great Lakes Tree Services of Sinclairville, New York, in the amount of $50,739.05. 9, motion that the council approve the 2020 budget transfers, which total $33,749 as presented in the attached reports. 10, motion that the council approves the 2021 budget transfers, which total $15,600 as presented in the attached reports. 11, motion that the council authorizes the Director of Finance to accept a gift in the amount of $5,000 from an anonymous donor to be restricted for the Swart Wilcox Fund, and to authorize any necessary budget amendments for said acceptance. And if our anonymous donor is out there listening, I say thank you very much. Number 12, motion that the council authorizes the Director of Finance to accept a gift in the amount of $1,000 from an anonymous donor as a token of appreciation for the many benefits received from the city. I almost want to read that again. And authorizes any necessary budget amendments of said acceptance. And again, if our anonymous donor is out there listening, we say thank you very much. And it was already mentioned that 13 would be pulled from the consent agenda, so I will bypass it. Go to 14. Motion that the council authorizes the closure of Main Street between Elm and Chestnut on Saturday, May 15, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is to permit Main Street vendors to allow for outdoor dining and shopping in honor of Hartwick College and SUNY Oneonta graduates. And 15 is a motion that the council authorizes Fordu and Club Odyssey to provide positive city messaging on a portion of Water Street that is not currently driven upon, and they would use short-term street paint, and it would be in there to view during May 2021. That concludes the consent agenda. All items 1 through 15 minus 13. And of course, I'll take any requests to remove any of the other items. Katie?
Number 5, please.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 5 and 13. Councilmember Carson moves, Councilmember Davies second. Would the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Councilmember Davies.
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger.
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Rafter.
Aye.
Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, consent agenda minus items 5 and 13 passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll go to motion 5 now. This regards the use of $125,000 up to $125,000 from the Streets and Sidewalks Capital Reserve. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Carson, second by Councilmember Harrington. Discussion.
Yeah, thank you. So I just pulled this so that I could get a better understanding. And I apologize, I didn't have time to watch the Finance Committee meeting where this was discussed. So some of this may have been gone over previously. But so based on the narrative, or the minutes, I should say, from the meeting, I took it that the project is coming in at this point under the expected cost, and we're being asked to approve over the anticipated, even over the anticipated budget, like beyond that. And so I was just hoping to get a better understanding of why that ask is being made in this instance.
Okay. Greg, do you want to handle that?
Sure. Katie, basically, the cost estimates we have now are just estimates, and their ultimate payment is going to be made based on the actual work that's done. So that amount of time that it takes, amount of material that it takes can vary a bit. And there might be some changes, might be some additions to the streets. So this is going to encompass a lot of streets, probably 30 or 40, more than that, even streets that will be crack sealing and applying pavement surface treatments to. So it's just not something we have an exact cost that we know specifically isn't going to be exceeded at this time. So what we had budgeted was 125,000. Obviously, it was intended to come out of that Streets and Sidewalks Reserve. So that's why we asked for that amount, just so that we had the full amount available and we can get all the work that we would like to get done without having to come back and ask again.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussion? Okay, would the clerk please call the vote on motion 5?
Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Councilmember Davies.
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger.
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter.
Aye.
Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're going to go to motion 13. I'll read it. Motion that the council authorizes the mayor to sign a contract with Destination Oneonta in the amount of $3,000. This is in relation to events titled Town and Gown, which is being organized by Main Street vendors. DO will provide financial management for these events at no additional cost above the cost of the events. This contract is subject, of course, to review by the city attorney. And the council authorizes a budget amendment appropriating our fund balance for the cost of this contract. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Carson, Councilmember Davies, second. Discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked for this motion to be pulled just to give an opportunity to Councilmember Drenick to just kind of bring the council as a whole up to date with the subcommittee that he's been working on. I believe he got assigned to it last year. I don't really remember the exact date, but Mark, if you don't mind, just kind of update the council. You came before the finance and HR committee to update us, but we thought it'd be best if you had the opportunity to address it to the entire council. So if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. Thank you very much. In fact, Len, for giving me the opportunity. I haven't really had an opportunity to lay this out for everybody, and I'm sure there's some interest in some of the detail. So to start with, the Town Gown Task Force was misnamed. It should have been called the Town Gown Collaborative. That's what it is. By definition, it's an ad hoc group of more than 60 people, volunteers, every one of them, representing SUNY and Hartwick students and teaching staff and downtown merchants and restaurateurs and community members. It's not the province of either college or downtown businesses, a city, or any community member. It's a collaboration. And the purpose is the integration of the colleges and downtown into what you might call a more perfect union. This is a place where students will feel properly welcomed into the community, and empathy and understanding of the daily struggles of businesses become an outgrowth of the opportunities they have to work with one another, typically in support of our neighbors. The task force staged a very successful series of collaborations in the fall, which the city and the downtown merchants generously supported by purchasing and reimbursing for purchases or through donation of goods and services. Task force is engaged in its spring effort currently, and that included the very sweet and very well received Earth Day celebration in Huntington Park, where students assisted young families in the creation of fairy houses and the decoration of flower pots, seeds included. And it also includes a month-long celebration of Hartwick and SUNY graduates and a huge thank you to their families. So it includes discounts and incentives and gifts. Just about every merchant and restaurant that I've had a chance to connect with. I still have my work to do there. It includes posters in all of the store windows. There's going to be a banner above Main Street that says, "Congratulations, graduates. Thank you for choosing Oneonta." It'll feature the recordings of musical performances by groups and ensembles of students from both campuses played over our downtown loudspeaker system, and it'll have programs. And it includes a closure of Main Street, as has already been discussed in the motion number 14. And that's set to the midpoint of the month, which is May 15th, to allow the community to celebrate the graduates and have the added bonus of outdoor dining. There's also an art installation that launches augmented reality. That's being planned, but it's not likely to be completed until the next fall. So all of this is being produced for the least amount of cost as is possible. It's our plan, it's been our plan, all along it's been our plan to address the creation of a legal entity for the group this summer. Right now, we're just trying to put it all together. We are really aware of the importance of that next step. For the spring effort, we were operating on the expectation that the established precedent of the fall would hold through this second semester's efforts. In the last few weeks, it was made clear that that wasn't the route that the city felt comfortable with. And as a consequence, we've been scrambling. Destination Oneonta has been a terrific partner, has stepped up to handle the purchasing, accounting, and distribution of payments, as been noted already, for the spring effort. And that includes the support I'm asking for tonight from the city, as well as those funds that may yet be donated by the colleges. So that's what we're doing. That's our strategy. And I'd be more than happy to take questions.
Are there any questions? Len?
Yeah, so Mark, the ability to finance this is going to go through Destination Oneonta. Is that correct?
For the spring effort, we know that there's another entity, a legal entity, that we'll have to determine, which is frankly, it's an ad hoc committee, so it's going to take a little creative thinking to figure out how we get to something that isn't the province of the city or the colleges or the downtown business community, but exists for all their benefit and the community's benefit, but is also in some fashion responsible to all those parties.
And then, Jenny, I guess maybe you should answer this one. The funding of this event, did you, I'm sure you did. Where did you end up deciding that the funds were going to come from?
Len, as the motion indicates, I'm asking to appropriate fund balance for it. I'm not comfortable at this early stage of the year in transferring funds from already very slim budgets that we approved for 2021. I'm not saying that as the year goes on, that we may not have more funds available depending on our sales tax and different sources of revenues, but as of right now, I would like to appropriate fund balance to fund the 3,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Katie?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I understand. So we were sent a list of the town gown event costs, right? With our agenda materials. Okay, I see Mark shaking his head. Yes, that's good. And so the total cost on that was like 5,000 and change. And so we're being asked to contribute $3,000 toward that, which seems really reasonable. And where is the other 22,000 plus coming from?
We will hope. Everyone has their own timeline and meetings that they need to attend relative to the level of their support and when that support's going to come. But we are going to hope and presume that we'll see some donation from SUNY Oneonta. And we may this year see some from Hartwick College, but we're also in this for the long haul. So if not this year, then there'll be another opportunity for Hartwick down the road. I have some fence mending, frankly, to take care of with Hartwick on some miscommunication, but we'll get that figured out. I also know that there are businesses in the city who've already said that if you are short, you can count on us.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say, as long as I've got you right there, Katie, you're still, you sit on this Survive and Thrive Marketing Committee, I believe?
I do.
Yes. So what we're creating here, as this is being documented in both photographs and video, is a treasure trove of content for the
Cool.
promotion of Oneonta by the agency that the marketing committee has hired. And I feel like it's going to be something that we'll find was extremely valuable to us for having been able to document.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for sure, quality of life stuff and really important work.
Yeah.
My question is, I guess, with regard to the funding, the one event already took place. So how was that funded?
That was funded through monies that will hopefully be reimbursed, let's just say.
Okay. Okay. And so the 22, I think it's like 22 or 2,300 is the remaining after our $3,000 input.
That's
That isn't accounted for either. We don't know where that's coming from.
not yet.
Not that that's any of my business.
Again, I do have expectations. I'll be disappointed if they don't come to some fruition, but if they don't, we also again do have local business owners that have seen what we're doing and see the value of it, and they have already told me that they will step up and fill in the shortfall. This is the long haul. This is we hope that this is something that is operating frankly, after I'm gone. The collaboration of the colleges and the business community will inform Oneonta for years to come, and this is an opportunity for us. So it's not without its travails, but we're getting there. And I'm and they're all volunteers. All of them are volunteers, and they've been working pretty hard to make something happen because they believe in it.
That was my question. Thank you.
Mark Davies?
Thanks, Mayor. Mark, do you and the committee have any other plans for extended events deeper in the summer, something like what we had last summer? Or is this what we're looking at for the spring/summer?
This is it. We took some good lessons from what happened between the fall semester and the spring semester. With the fall semester, we had some really documentable, in fact, documented successes that we got some good press out of as well, which was our point. And then as the students went home for Thanksgiving break, we decided that's about all we want to do for the fall semester. And we took advantage of the opportunity. Melissa Marietta, who was unfortunately, well, good for her, she's moved on to other pastures. She was my co-chair. Danielle McMullen will step in that role. But we spent time giving real consideration to how we can best put the resources that we had to its best advantage for the long term. And so we came up with half a dozen committees, some of which are more intra-campus in their nature, which I think is frankly a very important piece of this. Some of them that are about the dynamic of student impact on the community and how we might be able to even ratchet that up. One that's for promotions of all of that. And then the two committees that are most specifically referenced in our request for funding, which are about creating a space in Oneonta's downtown that bring people into some level of engagement.
Now, Mark Davies, were you asking if there are going to be more street closures
I'm sorry, I
for
didn't-
outdoor dining this summer?
No, I was specifically asking, trying to understand what other plans might be in the works.
Yes, and I'm sorry, Mark, I realized I didn't finish the answer. So we're going to do the same thing that we did between semesters last of fall to spring, and we'll take advantage of that time to recalibrate and see, and I mentioned the fact that we have to determine a legal entity as well, but we'll recalibrate and then we'll push into September a little bit better than we were in the spring. And, that's probably going to be the mode that this operates in, at least for the short term.
But
Thanks,
Mark Drenick, separately from this collaboration, there is a plan to do Saturday street closings for outdoor dining and shopping all through the summer, correct?
Yes, and I'm cautious not to conflate the two. They're two different entities, and I would be very happy at the next several meetings that we have between council and then at council to really lay out everything that we are doing and answer every single question.
Perfect. Len Carson?
Mark, thank you very much for taking the time. And I also want to give a shout out to the 60+ volunteers that have dedicated a lot of time. Just so that I understand that you're going to create a new entity, a legal entity that will be providing this service that the city will be contracting with, and that you are planning events coming this fall. Am I kind of like grasping this?
Yes, well, it's hard for me to say definitively what that will look like, for the reasons that I've stated already. But my suspicion is that its asks of the city would be commensurate with its requests from the two colleges and potentially even from the downtown merchants in whatever configuration they wind up. There are all kinds of plans afoot for everybody, it seems. So, and then of course, Destination Oneonta has been a terrific partner in this. They really stepped up. They really helped us out. And so that's not going to go that won't go unnoticed or unrewarded. So we will certainly be bringing them into the picture.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, yes, Ginny?
I know I've said this before. Thank you for letting me speak, Mayor. I know I've said this before, but Len, I just want to follow up on your comment as far as contracting with the new company. Depending on procurement and dollar value, it may require competition for an RFP if we're going to, depending on the amount that the new committee will be, or the new organization will be looking for. I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on the process, so it's not an automatic.
Right. And just so that we all understand that process, what's the threshold again?
Oh, if it's over 20,000.
It requires a competition after 20,000.
It requires, and the council can require a competition at any contract if they want, but according to our purchasing policies, if it's over 20 for that type of service.
But thank you for bringing that up. It's good for the rest of the council to understand that. Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, I'll just thank everybody.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we're now going to vote on motion 13. So would the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Rafter,
Yes.
Councilmember Drennick.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, thank you all. That passes unanimously. So let's scroll down. We have two 30-day notices. I'll take them one at a time. 30-day advance notice for the Brothers Grimm LLC, doing business as the Pale Horse Barbecue Bistro, to obtain a license to serve wine, beer, and cider. The question is, does anybody object to waiving the 30-day comment period? Katie Leparshu?
I don't object. I'm asking just for clarity, because we've had a couple of these come before us and we've typically waived them. What would we do in that 30-day comment period? Like, if we were to,
You would comment. In other words, if you wanted 30 days to submit comments for or against of any concerns you wanted to raise about the issuance of that license, you would have the opportunity to do so. You have a 30-day opportunity to do so. What the business is asking is for you to waive that 30-day period so that they could get their license quicker.
gotcha, in writing to the SLA, right?
Correct.
The comments. Okay. I just wanted to be sure that I was sure. Thank you.
Yeah. If there are no objections, we will notify the State Liquor Authority of such. And then we also have a 30-day advance notice for the Elks Lodge, the Oneonta Elks Lodge, 1312, to obtain a renewed license to serve liquor, wine, beer, and cider. And are there any objections to their request to waive the 30-day notice? If there are none, we will notify the SLA of such. Correspondence, Carrie, anything?
No correspondence.
Executive session, I'm not aware of any need. So any other additional business from council members? Len, Carson?
I spent about 10 hours walking around the Fifth Ward, dropping off door hangers, just asking Fifth Warders to join us this Saturday at May 8th at 10 a.m. for a Zoom meeting. And a shout out to any Fifth Warders that if you want to join, just give me a call or shoot me an email and I'll give you the Zoom link. Hopefully I don't screw up being the host, since I've never done that before. So, thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Any other items? If not, have a good night. We are